Good morning and welcome to the morning break. It is Wednesday here on the morning break. Of course, you're probably watching across the Abundant TV network, whether you're watching on the app or on Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, or on social media. We appreciate you. It's been another great week. Yes, Miles Holiday tells me that I have the easiest job in the world. I only work 3 days a week. Of course, that's this job. My other job, though, is 5 days a week. So this one's fun. It's going to be a great show today. I am super excited. Dr. Pamela Pyle is going to be with us on today's edition. We're going to talk about life and preparing for death. It's super interesting stuff, plus her life in general. We may even ask her about some of her Christmas stuff because I know she does like Christmas. And so we're excited about that. Hey, I want to thank the great folks, 7 Weeks Coffee, 7weekscoffee.com. Now, here's the thing. If you love good coffee like I do, my wife got me into this. My wife had reached out, and they had reached out to us, to 7 Weeks Coffee, about being a part of the Abundant TV network. And she goes, I'm going to order you some. This is before we even started working with them. I'm going to order some coffee from there. And I said, okay, well, that's fine. I like dark roast. She goes, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get you like a variety pack. Best thing we ever did. Now, listen, if you're a coffee lover like me, you're going to want to get the 4-pack just because everybody's different, but you're also going to want to experience what it's like to get a small roast coffee. These are incredible. You talk about stuff like that and people go, oh, well, I got this, or it's like some special thing. And you go, yeah, is that true or not? It is really true. Amazing fresh coffee delivered to your door, 7weekscoffee.com. Use the promo code ATV10 when you order. We appreciate them so very much. And you know what? This is great. There's a whole bunch of things we want to talk about today before we get to our guest. One of those things, have you noticed this? If you're following anything on social media, how this Christmas season seems to seriously be a retro Christmas. And in fact, actually, a study came out today that it is a retro Christmas. In fact, everything from the 50s is super popular. Now, this is kind of interesting. It's one thing that I didn't know was from the 50s, but found out in this article was that was really the start of white trees. I did not know it was the 50s. It makes a lot of sense. Kind of that whole space age time and everything going on. Also, silver ornaments are super popular this year. I'll tell my wife, one of our 9 trees will probably have silver ornaments. That's great coffee. It's amazing coffee. But by the way, yeah, so silver balls. We're actually changing up one of our trees in our formal dining room this year, and changing it to burgundy and green. It should be cool because our walls in our dining room are burgundy with a white wainscoting. So it should be very cool. And the tree is white. Now I can so my wife gets home today. I'm going to impress her with the fact that 1950s is when the white tree, because our big tree in our formal dining room is white. See, I've got stuff to say. By the way, you need to go out and celebrate. Today is National French Dip Day. Why is it everything that tastes really good is unhealthy for you? French dip is definitely unhealthy for you, the way I like it, at least. Today celebrates French Dip Day. Now, here's something interesting, and maybe it's just because I was born in the Midwest, so it's different here. That choked me up. It's different here, but they say in certain parts of the country that they put spicy mustard on there. I've never done that. I've never put spicy mustard on my French dip. Okay, that's interesting. Kind of some interesting stuff going on. And close us out for this segment. By the way, if you're thinking about Christmas, what is the one event leading up to that kind of really officially tells you it's Christmas? For a lot of people, that's the 1st of November. That's my wife. First tree went up 1st of November. But for a lot of us, at least as kids, the Thanksgiving Day Parade, Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, you're going to check it out. It's going to be on several platforms this year, in fact, including YouTube. You can find it this November 27th. Doesn't to me that's kind of like it's the launch of the holiday. I look at that and I go, yeah, it's Christmas now. You see Santa, and don't come at me if you don't like Santa. Come on, it's okay. You see Santa, you see the parade, everything kind of feels like Christmas. Everybody gets together for Thanksgiving. It's amazing. Anyway, so that's what I look at as the kickoff to Christmas. It's kind of Thanksgiving Day and the Macy's Day Parade. We come back. It's going to be a great interview. I'm super excited about this. We'll do that after this.
Behind every precious life, there was a choice. Behind every family moment, behind every special memory, there was a choice. A life of joy, a life that is beautifully and wonderfully made. At 7 Weeks Coffee, we are funding the pro-life movement, one cup at a time. Will you let your coffee serve a greater purpose?
Thanks to great folks at 7 Weeks Coffee at 7weekscoffee.com. Use the promo code ATV10 when you order. Best coffee in the world, in my opinion. At least one of the best. Maybe not the best. Okay, listen, it's their top 10. How about that? There's a couple others that are really good too, but 7 Weeks Coffee is definitely amazing. Use the promo code ATV10 when you order. Dr. Pamela Pyle is here with us on today's edition of the show. Doctor, so good to have you here with us. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule. And I want everybody to get to know you. So introduce yourself a little bit. Then we're going to talk about your book.
Can I just take a minute to talk about coffee?
Yes, we can talk about coffee. Definitely.
I had not heard of 7 Weeks Coffee, but I loved everything about it. And there's something so true about small roast coffee. And one of the things I think I feel connected to it is when I go to Rwanda, they have the best coffee. And the greatest coffee is when they roast it for you and you can drink it, that week. So I always bring coffee back. But, that doesn't last for very long. So that story of the small roast coffee and then add that they're helping pro-life causes,
It's incredible.
I'm just saying, if you're listening, those are two great reasons to get this coffee. It does make a difference.
I have my wife, and it's a neat story, and I'll tell you sometime about it. But we got married late in life, and my wife is not a coffee drinker. Both of us had never been married before. We got married. We celebrated our 4th anniversary just in September, and my wife has totally been diving into the coffee world now. And she's like, she was the one that goes, you need to order this coffee. This is before they contacted us about working together. And it is amazing. Now I like to grind my own coffee. So I do it. I tell people I like to grind it in the morning because it makes me feel like I've accomplished something for the day to start with. Because I love how that coffee
physical work in the morning, Rob.
Yes, that grinding sound. I feel like, ooh, I'm doing something. So, hey, listen, I want to, before we get into the book, I got to tell you something that just made me smile. That you talk about Christmas and going to in your PJs and going to Krispy Kreme. I love that story. I was like, I love Krispy Kremes in the first place.
Yeah,
But
who doesn't?
I don't know. It's just when that red light goes on, it just draws me like a mosquito
Hot and
to a
fresh
light.
now.
But tell me a little bit, and we'll start off here. Obviously, from reading, you call your family a tribe. Tell me about your family. I loved that.
We are a tribe that is a blended family with 5 kids and 2 wonderful son-in-laws that have been in our family. One for 21 years. My daughter started dating him in 8th grade, and they got married when they finished college. So um, just, this big family with now 8 grandkids. But I'm going to be honest with you, Rob. It's not without a little drama when you have so many kids and grandkids and all want to do different things. But we all agree on Krispy Kreme. And so, uh, it is my joy to get everyone pajamas, and sometimes we'll wear them for 3 or 4 years in a row, and then we'll switch to another. But we literally pile into, maybe 2 cars, sometimes 3, squished in. it one of the pictures that I always like is in my mind is my husband with the little hat on, and my son-in-law with the little hat on, and they're standing at the counter looking like they're having a business conversation.
Oh, that's
But
awesome.
it's just a beautiful thing we love to do as a family, and it doesn't have to be Christmas to do a Krispy Kreme run at midnight.
That's I agree with you wholeheartedly. My company put on an event in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and it was walking distance to the Krispy Kremes, and it was tough. It was tough not to gain a lot of weight that week, doctor. It was a tough. But tell everybody, I want to talk about this book because man, it is. I was reading through some of my notes, and this is impactful, and I want you to talk about it.
Well, thank you so much. One other question on Krispy Kreme. If you have leftovers, you can fry them in a little bit of butter the next day, and they become like this super glazed, amazing.
Oh,
Just passing that on. I'm sorry. I know it's not healthy, and I'm supposed to, I'm a doctor.
yes, good. I'm writing it down.
Just a little bit of butter.
Just a little bit.
Anyway, so I'm a board certified internal medicine physician, and I've been practicing mostly in US hospitals and also in Rwanda villages, um, US, since 1989. And during that time, I had so many incredible patient experiences. And I understood very early on that it was such a privilege to enter the life of someone that was going through something difficult and feel like I could offer not just medicine, but empathy. And ultimately, after I became a believer in my 30s, I had the best medicine, which is our Savior. But in 2018, I was with a patient, and she was near the end. Uh, Beautiful lady, in and out of the hospital for many times, and I knew her family because of that. And on that day, she had asked to see me, and I was sitting on the side of her bed, holding her hand, and she said, I don't want any more treatment. I don't want any of this, and I'm ready. And she had very specific questions about, I do want to know what to expect, and I do want to know what my family can expect um, during those final hours. And so, as I was beginning to tell her that and, addressing her questions, I glanced up, and there was a picture that had been drawn by one of her grandchildren. And in the moment, the humanity of her losing her and her family losing her also affected me, and that how much I was going to miss her. And I just really started to weep, and I couldn't help it. And she just grabs my hand and she says, "It's okay. It will be a good death." And Rob, I knew she was talking about her destination, but that
That is
inspired me to
powerful.
go further.
Yep. That is so powerful. So you decided to write a book and tell everybody about the book.
So I didn't begin with a book. I began with a journal, then
Okay.
for newspapers, and it became a book. But I wanted it to be a book that enters the patient's life from their first diagnosis. And regardless of faith, socioeconomic class, culture, race, that first diagnosis that is significant creates a sense of chaos and a sense of fear. And I had been in that place myself. And so, with that information and my medical background, I wanted to equip the patient and their family to navigate all seasons of health from the first diagnosis to the last with the really practical things that you don't get necessarily from your physician, such as what questions to ask, how to get a second opinion. And truthfully, Rob, knowledge is power and wisdom is a superpower. And so I wanted to really convey that to the person that was in that journey.
And a lot of times, I think you need to be your own advocate. We talked pre-show about my mom, and I had to be her advocate because she was too sick to do that herself. So I think that's a big key part.
It truly is. And so I really wrote with the principles of decision making, but also how to become your own best advocate or your best advocate for a loved one. Because the truth is, in our medical system, in our society, and it's not just ours, it's around the world, you know, if we don't become our own advocate, we don't necessarily get the best medical care. And so that's what I wanted to teach is how to find answers and how to ask questions that give you the best care.
I love that, and there's so many things. There are probably people out there right now, and I want you to kind of give them some idea. Let's say, and we're going to use a hypothetical. Let's say somebody's just recently, like you said, from that first diagnosis. Give them what they kind of like what they need to know from your side as a doctor to help them, because I love the idea of this the lady. The story touched me so much because it's she knows where she was going, and she felt that her body had, I'm sure, had kind of done everything it could. She didn't just give up. But tell everybody, as far as our viewers, kind of like if you're in that first stage, let's say you did get an awful uh, diagnosis of some sort, how should they start? What preparing in your mind and for your family, what do they need to do?
So the second chapter talks about it's very patient story driven. And in the second chapter, it was really actually a friend of mine. And she was in her 30s and had received a diagnosis of appendiceal cancer. And so on that first visit, the shock is so tremendous that you really do not process anything that you are hearing. And then we often will go home and read what Dr. Google has to say about what our diagnosis is. And I really don't recommend it at that stage because it creates undue fear. Um, and and that's not necessary. It's not what you need. What you need is a plan. So the next step is to think about the questions. And I have several, probably 30 questions of, you know, what is my diagnosis, but also where is the best place for my care, considering everything that you have in front of you. And always be prepared with written questions. If you find that you're getting pushback, like the doctor's running out of time, I always say, at that point, say, I really have a lot more questions. May I reschedule time with you to address all of my questions? And they generally will understand that. And the very last questions, regardless if you remembered nothing else about what I've said, is I always say, is there anything I should know that I haven't asked? And then the final question is, if this were your loved one, your spouse, your child, what would you do in this circumstance? And I don't say, what would you do if this were you? Because oftentimes doctors have an inability to place them in the mortal category. But when you ask them about their loved one, it all of a sudden becomes real to them. And that's what you want, is for them to treat you as if you were their loved one too.
That is awesome. You mentioned Rwanda. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing over there.
It's a second home for me. I went in 2009, the first time, and came back with a very clear, this is your place and this is your purpose, kind of calling. I thought it was to help build a clinic. But, when we have a vision, God always has a different vision. And a lot of times there's a lot of waiting with the vision. And during the waiting time, he doesn't want us just to sit around and wait. He wants us to keep doing steps towards what we think the vision is meant to be. So in this case, I started bringing medical mission teams, joined Africa New Life Ministries, which I hope you put in your show notes because they're just an incredible organization. And during that time, we started with about 4,000 children in our sponsorship program, and we systematically saw them and took care of their health, both when we were there and when we weren't, placing community nurses. And then all the time, this little plot of land that we had bought at the beginning, we prayed over literally every single time, every single team. And God brought the people, God brought his vision. And in 2018, we opened a hospital. But the fun part of that hospital is it's now the second largest hospital in Rwanda. Wow. Last year, we saw over 102,000 patients.
That's awesome.
We've delivered over 3,000 babies a year. And since 2018, we have had only one maternal death and no fetal deaths. And when you're in that kind of situation, it's not me, it's not any human being, it's only God's favor. And we have our seminary right next to it. So every possibility of sharing the gospels, because that's what Jesus did, so many of his lessons were around healing. And so we teach health evangelism as the model. And it's been a fun thing to continue to be a part of. I've been on the board, been chair, and we have our 25th anniversary next year.
That is so awesome.
Wow. It's so fun.
That is so cool. It's second largest hospital in Rwanda, and you helped build it.
I was one of many. I was called, but God was calling others.
See, and that is so true. And I'd love to have you back on again and just talk about God's calling, because sometimes what you said was so true that you get to a point and you're like sitting there going, well, God, you called me to do this. Why isn't it happening yet?
Yes.
And that's crazy. Dr. Pyle, such an amazing ministry you're doing and things you've got
Thank
going
you.
on. Check out the book, go to her website. When we come back, it's time for my final thought after this. U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce next year, 2026, Orlando. I'm going to be there. You should be there too. Check out that great event. Going to close this out today. We've talked a little bit about Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're kind of leading up, so a lot of these shows we're going to talk about that. So this is super funny. And the final thing for today's show, my final thoughts, has to do with the fact that buddies and some of my friends and I, not all of my friends, but some of them, I don't have that many, so it was at least half of them, we're in a group text and we're talking about things that we want for Christmas. And it got me thinking. So I did a little research on this because I was like curious, what do guys want for Christmas this year? And I was like, what is it everybody wants? And it's kind of interesting. So the top 3 things, which I think is super funny, top 3 things that guys want for Christmas. And this is, I don't have one of these. I think it would be fun to have, but number 1 is a meat thermometer. My father-in-law has one. And I didn't think about it. He has a digital one, but the new ones that are out right now, these new thermometers, you can set it on your phone. And so you don't even have to be in the room. And the thing, how cool is that? That's number 1. Number 2, also, if you'll notice, things for guys are all food related. Number 2, from the great folks at Blackstone, they've got a new tabletop pizza maker. So you can do it outside, you can do it inside. Here's my thing on this. And no offense, if you like to make your own pizza at home, no, I'm not throwing shade on you. I love the idea. It's a lot of work when you can call an order and get a pizza. I'm just saying. And number 3, and again, like I said, all of these are food related. The number 3 gift this year requested is French fry seasoning. Now, I didn't know this was a thing, and so I had to look it up because I thought it was somebody, pranking us here on the show. No, it's a legit thing. People buy these seasonings, and they're custom done seasonings. There's about 7 or 8 companies now out there doing it in the United States for French fries, and its seasoning comes in the one comes in great little things, and you can season your fries with them. Didn't know it was a thing, but it's number 3. Wow. Thanks to Dr. Pyle for being with us today on the morning break. You know what? I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this has been the morning break.